Irish fans, this is episode 4 of Wake Up the Echoes presented by TireRack.com. I'm your host, Tony Simeone, and I have news for you. I was driving in to record this show today, and I was headed east, and I saw along the horizon a little bright light, and it was the sun. It came up today. It's going to come up tomorrow. It's going to come up next week in Durham, and I'm keeping the faith. I know that the result did not go the way that anybody you're going to hear on this show today hoped it would, but we had a good cathartic conversation about it, and I'm feeling very optimistic going forward the rest of the season. You're going to learn about how solutions-oriented this whole podcast is. Had some great guests. As always, we talked to the head coach, Marcus Freeman, talked to him about the entire game, and I think you'll learn a lot from that conversation. Talked to a couple of offensive linemen who are always great to chat with, Joe Walt and Zeke Correll. And then we talked to NBC's Kathyn Tappen. You probably saw her on the sideline last night, have seen her here in the past covering Notre Dame football. Now she's covering the primetime package for NBC. So obviously not the finish anybody wanted on Saturday, but what a spectacle it was in South Bend. If you just also checked out NBC's page, they set a record for ratings in the last 30 years. So it was a great contest except for the final moments. And without further ado, let's talk to the head coach, Marcus Freeman. All right, Coach, this is our 4th podcast. I know you are frustrated we're not talking about a big win after this last week. Quite a game, though, quite a spectacle. I'm going to start first with just the whole week. What was your takeaway with the whole week on campus? It was quite a spectacle. I've never seen this place quite like that.
It was unbelievable. I said it in my press conference earlier, just the atmosphere, the work that went into making Saturday night the environment that it was special. And special shout out to the students and the fans and everybody involved with making that a special weekend. It was awesome.
The end of the game has gotten a lot of discussion. Just curious, I heard your press conference, and I think you said, I think it's pretty admirable that it all just comes to you. It stops with you. Just, I want to give you the chance on this podcast to lay it out for those that don't listen to the press conference. Like the end of the game, you guys addressed, like there's a lot of things you wish had gone differently. What's your takeaway from the end of the game?
Yeah, there's no one play that is the reason why we lost, but great teams find ways to execute when they have in the biggest moments.
Yeah.
And we didn't. We had the ball with 4 minutes left in the game, and you would love to finish with the ball, and we didn't. And we didn't execute the right way. Defensively, that last drive, they convert on 3rd and 10, they convert on 4th and 7, they convert on 3rd and 18, and the last 2 plays, you got 10 guys on the field, and so everybody's accountable. Everybody had a part in the result of that game, and we have to embrace that, and you have to own it. Like, what we can't do is point the finger and say if he would have done this, right? If that coach would have done it, no, it's my fault, right? And I want everybody in our program to point the finger at themselves. No one person is responsible, but everybody's accountable, and so that's what it's about. When you have success, it's the greatest team sport there is, right? Yeah. It is. You point your finger at your teammates because it isn't about you. But when you have failures, I say it's an individual sport. It's like my kids wrestle. It's like wrestling. And wrestling, when you lose, you can't point the finger at anybody else. And that's what I want the mindset to be. And that's what it is. These kids have heard it, and this coaching staff has heard that enough. And so we have a group of individuals that will truly own this, and we'll go attack it and fix it.
I think it's harder for fans to get over losses than players and coaches, because you guys have to go get ready for the next game. But I thought that, and people will hear it later in this episode when we talk to both offensive linemen, and then when you were talking with Zeke, I just think their mindset is exactly what you described. Yeah. It's really neat to watch the leaders on this team, I think, echo what you're saying. You can tell that. I think Joe even said he went home, didn't go to bed until 5, rewatched the tape, and was looking for all the things that they could have done better.
Yeah.
So there wasn't the finger pointing. You get the sense there is like a look within, and how do I do my part to fix this for next time, right?
Yeah, the difficult part, obviously, when you're so invested, is that you have physical pain, right? And right. The physical pain, it's indescribable, right? And I kind of forgot because we hadn't lost in a little while, and I mean, physically you're ill, but you have to go to work.
Yeah.
Like you have to go embrace it, and you have to go and challenge it, and you have to go attack it. And so it's so hard to do that while you're physically ill, because you want somebody just to pat you on the back and give you sympathy, right? When you have that pain, you want somebody to make you feel better, but you can't. And so it's extremely difficult, but the only thing that will really make you feel better is getting back to work around the guys that you have.
And I heard you in the press, you said you even talked to some players yesterday. So just, you said you had the physical pain. How do you personally make the action to then flip the switch to start going to work? Because you said it's tough.
Yeah, I had to get the frustrations out, right? And my position group is the coaching staff.
Okay.
Right. And so they all have position groups. That's mine. And we met, and we had one of those challenging meetings that we needed. We needed it. And then we broke up and watched the game with O staff, D staff, and we came back together. And I said, when we get back together this afternoon, we have to turn the page, right? And that's a choice, right? The pain is still there, the anger is still there, but we have to turn the page, and so we can't let that frustration come out. And so that's what we did, and that was really a great remedy for me. Even though sometimes you still have that pain, but you don't have to watch the film of Duke long to realize, okay, we have to fix the mistakes from the past game, but really start preparing for this team too. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what we did and what we'll do.
I think one of the things that bummed me about the game is that there were so many great moments too. And I feel like all we've done the last 36 hours is dissect the bad moments. I wanted to talk about some of the bright spots.
Yeah.
I think about that 11-play, 96-yard drive. I think it came up in your press conference too, but so many freshmen. Mm-hmm. Rico catches the touchdown. Jaden Greathouse makes some big catches. Jeremiah Love. As the head coach, does that give you like a real jolt that, hey, we have guys contributing early on in their careers? This is exciting about obviously this year, but the future as well.
Yeah, I'm so excited for those young freshmen that are playing. And I always say it's a double-edged sword, though, because there's other freshmen that might not be playing right now that say, why am I not playing? Well, everybody's journey is different. You heard Zeke's journey versus Joe's journey is completely different. Right. Joe came in here, was going to redshirt, and Blake Fisher was the starting left tackle. Then halfway through the season, Blake gets hurt the first game, and Joe comes in here and he starts and becomes this great player. But not everybody's journey is like that, and so you have to truly embrace your journey and your role. But to your other point, man, there was a lot of great moments. Like, we played really, really well, and we just didn't execute when we needed to the most. And the offense did a great job of taking care of the football, really rushing the ball 170-something yards, no sacks versus an extremely talented D-line. The defense, they held Ohio State's offense to 17 points, which hasn't been happening in like 6 years, somebody told me. We did a really, really good job for a large portion of that game. But those small mistakes versus great teams are what's going to cost you.
I wanted to talk about the defense because it was 10 points for 59 minutes and 57 seconds too. I can see the pain. But the corners, I just, we haven't had Benjamin on this show yet. I'm assuming we will at some point. And then I thought Cam did a great job. It gets lost in all this. They're playing against two of the best receivers in the country, and they weren't at least Marvin Harrison Jr. was not a massive factor in the game, and that's a credit to the way they covered. Just when you flipped on the film and you've watched it since, like, how impressed are you with the way that they covered in such a big game and on such a big stage?
Yeah, we have a lot of confidence in our guys, and those two individuals, they work tirelessly, they prepare the right way, and they go out and they play confident, and you got to understand those Marvin Harrison and their receivers at Ohio State, they're going to make some catches. They're great players, man. But the ability to say, okay, every single play on this play, I'm going to do my job. No matter what happened the last play is really what's pleasing as you look back at that game. And those corners played really, really well versus some great wide receivers.
You mentioned turning the page towards Duke. I heard the news get broken as well. It's going to be 4 straight night games with Duke, and then Louisville the next week, and then back here for USC. What about this Duke game that they beat Clemson? They're undefeated. There's going to be a lot of buzz. I think game day is going to be there again. As the head coach, how do you have to prepare this team for what's going to be another really unique challenge going down to Durham in 5 days?
Yeah, I think you have to have plans for a loud crowd, right? Those are the preparation things that you have to make sure that you have a great plan for. But the reality is we have to focus on our execution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what matters, because at the end of the day, it's about us reaching our full potential.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my message to the team. This isn't about us going, oh yeah, we're going to take our frustrations out on Duke. That's just the opponent we play, right? We have to continue to focus on reaching our full potential. And if we do that, let's see what the outcome is.
Yeah.
Right. We did not do that on this past Saturday. Right. And the outcome was a 17-14 loss. Let's continue to chase reaching our full potential. Right. And there's a way to do that. And so if we do that, let's see what the outcome of the game is on Saturday.
Coach, I appreciate the time as always. I'm looking forward to talking next week after you guys get back from Duke.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. All right, Joel, Zeke Correll, you guys are here as our guest this week. This segment's presented by YETI. You guys fans of the YETI products?
Of course.
Yeah. I got one right here, right?
Love that.
We do our coldest moment of the week. So I want to talk about that second touchdown drive. It's a pretty cold moment. We can talk about the rest of the game in a little bit, but 11 plays, 96 yards, right? You guys are part of that unit up front. Just from your standpoint, I'll start with you, Joe. Just what about that drive stood out to you when you think about it going ahead? What comes to mind? Maybe the coldest moment even of that drive.
Yeah, I think for us, we just felt like we were starting to wear them down there, and that towards like the second half, we had been driving the first half. We just hadn't really, necessarily capitalized on the opportunities we've been presented with. But get into that second half, we knew we had it in us. We knew we were moving the ball, and we got into that drive, and it just felt different. I mean, it didn't feel different, but it just felt like we know we can do this, and we're going to go score this touchdown, whatever it takes. And I think, it's always Zeke in the middle, kind of starting that with just his communication, just like his, I don't know, he just gets us going. He's like, this is the drive, this is where we got to lock in, and we're going to do it. And I think that drive, we just kind of all said, like, no matter what, we're finishing in the end zone, and we did whatever it took to get there.
What stood out to you, Zeke?
Honestly, just like the mentality of the group. Going into that one, there's like a gotta have it moment, and you can kind of tell when guys are starting to bend a little bit that you're going against when you're wearing on them. And during that drive, it was more like this has to happen, and it was a no matter what mindset. Like we're gonna get this done, no question. And yeah, obviously we had a good drive, but it still hurts.
I can imagine. One thing I wanted to ask both of you, because I don't watch the game with the same lens you guys do. You guys see the stuff in the trenches better than me. If you can think back to each other's career, you guys have been together now 3 years, I guess. But what is maybe the coldest moment you've witnessed the other guy execute on the offensive line? Can you think of a coldest moment? It can be in a game. It can be on tape. You got yours?
Yeah, I got mine.
Zeke can think, and I'll let Joe go first. Yeah. What is Zeke's coldest moment?
I would say it was the entire Clemson game. They had a blitz where they take their two inside backers and they cross them. And Zeke leading the charge with our two guards against them last year, handled it so well, and it really opened up our running game the entire game, because that was going to be their game stopper for us. They're going to hit us with this blitz over and over again. And Zeke took the charge and made it work every play, and that was where our biggest runs came from. And us being able to handle that allowed our run game to go, and allowed us to hold possession, win the football game, and it was huge for us.
What about Joe?
I don't remember what game it was, but we were in a lot of no pull gap last year, and there was one play where Joe had a combo block that he took his guy, I think it was like 25 yards downfield, planted him on his back. And I remember seeing that during the game. I was like, this kid can ball. Like this, that's legit. Like that's demoralizing for them. And yeah, I mean, obviously I've known for a long time now that Joe's that guy, but that was something special.
All right.
The coldest offensive line moment, I want to see if you guys know this one, that I've seen since I've been here, is that Quentin Nelson blitz pickup against Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys been able to execute anything like that in your time here? You guys are still seeking that one blitz pickup that Quentin had back in the day?
We're still seeking it, I would say. Yeah. I mean, we there's potential on some of the protections to get one, but we're still seeking. That's a heads up play.
Quentin Nelson. Yeah, that's every lineman's dream, is being able to sprint. So a guy, when he doesn't see you, catch him off guard, so he can't use his athleticism against you and juke you out of your socks. But yeah, obviously you'd want to love to sprint and just go absolutely annihilate someone.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a relationship with Q? I'm sure he's in touch with the program to an extent. Like what's the relationship like that there?
Yeah, he's a little bit of neither of us play with him.
Right.
So, I mean, we've met him. He's a great guy. Obviously awesome football player. Did a lot for this university, a lot for Notre Dame offensive line standard.
Yeah.
He kind of helped set that and what it really means to be an offensive lineman for Notre Dame. He's a good dude.
Yeah, I think exactly what Zeke said. And he came last spring. We got to meet him and talk to him, and he kind of just reemphasized what that standard was. And it was really cool for a guy like me, because I was still young, to like hear how this standard has been, involved in the group and been there for so long, and hearing a guy like him talk about it and it's still the same was really a cool moment for me.
It's amazing to see like how consistent your guys' position is at this place, because I've been here. This is my 8th season working here, and it's like the one position group, and the other ones are great. Don't get me wrong, we like them all, right? But man, it's just like a level of consistency that's always there. And whenever I talk to someone that's a part of your group, that same message comes out. It's like there's a pride in what has come before you and to maintain that, right?
100%.
Yeah, exactly what you said. I mean, we take great pride in what we do, just like preparation, making sure we're all on the same page, playing together, 5 as 1. And then like when you're playing out there, you're not just playing for yourself, you're playing for the guy next to you. And all those that came before you, like you don't want to let them down.
Yeah.
That's something that they've said.
I think that was a big emphasis that like I learned about. I was like, yeah, we're doing this for like the guys next to us, but there's also the guys that came before us. They play on Sundays, or maybe they're not playing, but they're watching. And they're like, we want to keep that standard that they set, that they work so hard to develop. We want to continue that with how we play and how hard we work and our preparation going into each week, just to like honor those guys and what they did for the program.
Don't want to harp on this past game too much, but I want to talk to you guys about it because it just happened. Let's first start with O-line and your guys' assessment of your play. Coming into this game, like Ohio State's got big-time players on the other side of the field. I thought you guys did a pretty darn good job, but you guys have had a couple days to kind of reflect. Where did you guys think you performed well? Were there areas you guys were hoping to be better? What was your takeaway from that game on Saturday from just your position group standpoint?
Yeah, I think for us, we talked about it, me and Zeke talked about it with the group the whole week, was like, let's go play us and be us and do what we do well. And I think we did execute that really well, especially in the run game. Didn't change up too many things and just kind of did what we do and just like continue to work each and every week to get better on things. And I think that's what we did in the run game. And I think it worked well for us. We were able to just go out there and know our jobs, know our responsibilities, use our technique, and we're able to be successful in the run. And I thought that was something that we harped on that I thought went well for the most part in the run. There's obviously plays you want to have back that, you miss your keys and stuff. But
sure.
I think for the most part, our run game was pretty solid in the way we wanted to execute it.
Yeah. What about you, Zeke?
Yeah, I agree with what he said. Going into the week, we kind of have this mindset of like playing fearless, playing free, just going out there and doing what we do, like playing Notre Dame offensive line football. That's what our whole thing was, not playing to their game. And I think, we had a good game. Obviously, what he said, there's always plays you're going to want back. You're going to watch it on films. You want that one back.
That's football, right?
That's football. Yeah. That's how it is. You're never going to win every single rep. Otherwise, you'd be the best player of all time.
There were 2 teams playing, too, right? Like they're going to win a couple
I thought we executed at a high level, and, I think we did a lot of things to help the offense, get going. So,
Okay, I want you guys to keep it very real with me. The last 48 hours, like what's your reaction been since the game? Because it's a game you guys obviously could win. It comes down to the last play. What have you guys – I think players probably are – I would assume, you can correct me if I'm wrong, can get over any loss quicker than fans because you guys have to go look forward to Duke, right? Yeah. But there's still this one day you have off, and you guys are going to get together today, I think, is your first time meeting usually after Sunday off. So, like, what have the last 48 hours been, or 36 hours really, for you guys as you reflect on that and then have to turn the page here soon? Start with you, Joe.
Yeah, I think for me, I've always lived by a 24-hour rule. So as soon as that last play is played, you have 24 hours to think about it, and then you got to move on. So, post game, not gonna lie, I felt like I was gonna throw up, and that one hurt so bad. You just feel sick to your stomach. I went back to my house, saw my family. They come into town, you gotta be with them. But went to bed, and I didn't go to bed till probably 5 a.m. I watched the film 3 times over again, and just you want it so bad, and you're so close, you just get sick watching it, and it's a hard one to swallow. And then we get together as a unit, offensive line unit on Sunday and go over, and it's just. You don't want to play the what-ifs game, but there are always what-ifs watching film, and you're just like, gosh, it was just right there, and what could we have done more? And it's always super hard. But then you get past that 24 hours for me, and it's like, all right, now we got to kind of reset. You got to take the things you watched in film and get better on them this week and start focusing on the next opponent.
Yeah. Coach Freeman always says you either win or you learn, and that one obviously very disappointing. After the game, of course, that's all it's going to be on your mind for the next, day. But, good teams, after a loss like that, they will look for answers, but the great teams will come together and find solutions. And we are a solution-based program. We're going to do whatever it takes to, make sure that never happens again. And, Coach Freeman always talks about reaching our full potential. Like you have to be that way every play, live in the moment. Can't think about the next play. Can't think about the last one. It's always this one, right?
Yeah.
That's all you're guaranteed. It's all you got. So, we got stuff to clean up, but, yeah, that one definitely hurt.
That was a great one.
I
Good
love
teams
that one.
look for answers. Great teams find solutions, right? That could be on a T-shirt.
That's a good one.
That's a
Zeke.
good
I
one.
like that one a lot.
Frame it.
Yeah, you can frame that one.
Yeah, put it on a plaque.
Yeah.
I was impressed by the
I'm all
guys
about
that I
it.
saw talk to the media after the game. Like they were already, folks saying the right things, looking forward. How do you guys as leaders put that into action? Because I think it's going to be tough probably for the next 2 days, but eventually you're going to go down to Duke and play. What do you guys have to do as leaders on this team to kind of get it going back in the right direction for Duke?
Yeah. Whatever needs to be corrected now, with a sense of urgency that, that game's passed, but whatever you did poorly, you have to improve upon so that you get better and better as the year goes on. And you don't have time to keep thinking about it.
Right.
If you, let's say it's a Wednesday and you're still thinking about last week, you let that day slip and then you're not as prepared as you should be for the following week. So we take it day by day, and as a leader, you just have to make sure that the guys understand what it means to be a part of a team, what it means to be a part of this, and then how can they improve, how can they add to the team, add value, and how can we get better as a team. So
Yeah, like Zeke said, improving every day. And I think one of the things Coach Freeman harps on is let's win today. And I think that's something, as leaders, you want to kind of get back instilled. And everyone is like, all right, that game's behind us. Now we got to win today. What are we going to take from, that game or yesterday's practice or watching film? What are we going to take and, write your thing down that you're going to work on this week? What is it going to be and what are you going to do and how are you going to do it? And put your effort towards that and not waiting on the past. And, something that I think is, you have a game like that, you can have an edge going into the next game, but you can never let it, affect your emotions and your mindset. You got to have the same mindset every day that I'm going to win today and I'm going to put all my effort into today and how am I going to get better as a player, as a person, as a teammate, as a brother. That's the main focus. Yeah.
We were talking a little bit about Sam as you guys came in here. I always think of the offensive line. You guys said the older guys kind of teach the younger guys how to come along, but you have such a veteran quarterback. Have you learned anything about offensive line play, maybe even from him, or anything that he does that's helped educate you on how you can play your position better? What's Sam's impact maybe been on your guys' role this year?
He definitely makes our job easier. I can tell you that. Obviously very experienced guy. At the start of the season, he was like, yeah, this is my 49th college football game.
Crazy.
Which, 49 college football games, that's a lot of experience going in. So, you have a veteran quarterback in Sam, it's a guy you can always rely on. You can always count on him to get his job done. It's been a pleasure playing with him. Okay. He's a great guy.
Yeah, exactly like Zeke said. And the only thing I'll add is just with his experience, he comes a confidence level and a cool, calm, collected feel. He's very poised on the field. And I think that kind of has helped us. And you just kind of feel in the huddle. You just feel kind of collected and poised. And we're not going out, yes, you got to win your individual job and do your job, but it feels like we're an offense going up against a defense. We all feel together and connected. And I think that starts with him at the leadership back there.
I know I saw he gave out the beats at the beginning of the year, and I've always heard that quarterbacks, they do a little bit extra for the offensive line. So did you guys get engraved beats? Did you guys get a second set? Where was the extra part for the O-line?
Mine were actually made with real gold.
Oh,
yeah.
He got everyone on the team beats. I'm pretty sure that's good enough for me because I actually lost my headphones a few weeks before that. So shout out Sam Hartman, man.
Yeah, I lost my beats on my spring break vacation. I threw them in the trash can on the airplane. So shout out.
Why'd you throw them in the trash can?
It was total on accident. I still don't know where they went. I had them in my hand, and then the trash lady came by, and I threw away my bottle, and then I didn't have my headphones. I checked the seat.
Were they earbuds or over the ear?
No, the earbuds ones.
Okay, I was going to say, if you just fold those up and threw them in the can.
I don't know what happened. So shout out Sam.
You gotta you're gonna be worried about getting old because I get old now. And it's I put my keys in the trash and the Sour Patch bag in the key holder at home right now. It's the opposite thing. So your brain starts doing weird stuff.
Yeah,
as you get older.
Mm-hmm.
5th year for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I talked to Jack and Maris about this last week, but the guys that came in around that time have been through a ton since they've been here, right? Because you went through football, shutdown, COVID, and then coaching change. Just now that you're in your fifth year, just as you reflect upon your time at Notre Dame, what comes to mind? What are the emotions and memories that come to mind as you think about your time here?
Yeah. Reminiscing, thinking about all the stuff I've been through getting here, it always brings me back to the same moment. And that was the moment I decided to come here. And that was for the people. Like when you go and you decide to commit and give your everything to a school, when you decide to sign that letter of intent, like you don't want to do it for a coach. You don't want to do it for a fan base or anyone else other than like the guys in that locker room. Cause that's who you're going to be spending all the time with. Coaches come and go. The guys like you can always count on are going to be the guys next to you, the guys you spend all day with. 365 days a year.
Yeah.
And, when I visited and met the players and got a sense of that locker room feel, like that was something I wanted to be around because there's a bunch of guys that are highly competitive and there are a bunch of guys that are, iron sharpens iron. They're going to make you better. So that's why I wanted to be around. And it's stayed true to this day. It's got me through the toughest of times.
What about you, Joe? I mean, I hear you nodding along to that, and I see you kind of affirming everything there. You haven't been here as long, but it sounds like the decision was similar that you made.
Yeah, it was extremely similar. I look back to, obviously I was different. I got recruited during COVID, so I couldn't really come here and like see the guys, but it was I was on a Zoom call, and like I'd been on a lot of Zoom calls, and you could feel kind of how, some colleges maybe like fake what they were really about and stuff. It didn't feel real, but I got on a Zoom call with, I think it was 5 offensive linemen from here. And it felt so real, and you always heard about this brotherhood thing, but you could see it live in action. Like, yeah, I was on there, but like they were joking around with each other. They were talking to each other, and just felt like that's where I wanted to be. And ever since then and coming here, and it's been the best decision I've ever made. It's my home away from home. These guys are who I rely on, and they're there for me. And you want to be successful for them. They want to be successful for you. And it's this brotherhood and this bond that will be, beyond football, beyond college. It's just this
the rest of your life.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's been such a dream to be a part of it.
Well, it sounds awesome. I wish I was part of the O-line, but I'm not. Thanks for swinging by, guys.
Yeah,
We're going to let you get out of here. We're going to bring Coach Freeman in. Okay?
Oh, perfect.
All right.
Bye, Zeke.
Have fun in class, Joe.
Okay. We replaced a left tackle with a head coach and former defensive guy. Do you feel more uncomfortable now, Zeke, that you're not with your left tackle here?
No, I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah,
you feel good with the head coach?
Yeah,
okay.
Of course.
I wanted to ask you, Coach, first. Now that you're the head coach, second year, how much did you know about offensive line before you took the job? And have you had to learn a lot more about offensive line play in the last year and a half being the head coach here?
No, I think any coach, as a defensive coordinator, you got to know about offensive line play. And more than anything is getting to know the people, right? Because you're a defensive coordinator. You spend all your time with the defense, and you become a head coach. And I was very intentional about spending time with these guys, especially the big guys. Like the very first day I said, we're an O-line, D-line driven program. And so I had a relationship with the D lineman, but I was intentional about developing one with the O-line.
When you hear Coach say that you guys are offensive line, defensive line driven program, what does that make you feel, Zeke?
Good.
Yeah.
Led by the strong, I think most games are won and lost in the trenches. Whoever is more physical, whoever wins the line of scrimmage that day has a much higher chance of winning the game. And, led by the strong, that's what he says. So
that's right.
I'll run with that one.
When you've got someone like Zeke, and we just had Joe in here who just left, like these are big time leaders for your program. Just how valuable is it to have guys like that up front you can count on when you are starting to kind of build the program out?
Yeah, I remember saying to these guys last year, when your biggest guys are your best leaders, that's something special, and I knew about Zeke because I was at Cincinnati, and he's from Cincinnati, and kind of followed him here. And, Zeke was able to give a senior speech in fall camp to our players and to our program about some of the ups and downs, and we call them the bumps in the road along his journey. And to hear the authenticity of his journey, it spoke volumes to me, but I hope it spoke volumes to many of the guys in the room of this journey through college. And so Zeke's been just a great leader for us and a great football player.
What was, to the extent you can share, and if you can't, that's fine too, but what was the nature of that speech you gave last year?
Kind of just talking about my journey, being here. Freshman year, didn't play. Sophomore year, Jared Patterson got hurt. Right. Opportunity to start North Carolina game. Sprained my ankle pretty bad in the first quarter of the game, finished the game out, and then my next start was the Rose Bowl versus Alabama. Next season, I'm at guard. I start the first 6 games. I'm benched out the rest of the season, and I had 2 choices at that moment, and it was to look outward and point my finger and try and blame someone else, or try and figure out why this was happening to me, or look inwards and figure out a solution and how can I better myself? How can I make this happen for myself?
Yeah,
like become undeniable. And that's kind of when that was that shifting moment for me, when things started to click more and more. And then senior season, started center, now 5th year center again. So it's a bumpy road. It's a very bumpy road, but when you got guys and people around you can trust, and when you can rely on yourself to get that done, then that's kind of my thing. You fall in love with the process along the way.
Yeah. It takes a while to learn that, though, right? Like
long time.
When it first hits you, like, I don't know if this is going to be for me, and then you start realizing that the bumpy road's the way you got to go, right? It's the only way. You mentioned Cincinnati. Did you know about him at all when you were in Cincinnati?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
A huge recruit.
Okay, so what did you know about Zeke Correll when he was coming up in Cincinnati?
We had no chance. He wouldn't give us the time of the day. But
first offer, though.
Yeah, we got him early.
Okay.
We did. But he went on to greater.
Dang, you turned him down.
And so, listen, it's Notre Dame. I'm here now.
Bumpy road. Bumpy
exactly
road.
Right. Exactly.
Coach Washington actually was at Michigan, I think, at the time, and he came to recruit me. I think he was maybe a few pounds lighter at that time. Then he came here and was our D-line coach, and I saw him. I was like, this guy looks kind of familiar. Like, I don't know if I remember. He was like, oh, I remember I was at Michigan recruiting you. I was like, oh. Well, yeah, it's a small world, man.
Yeah. We haven't talked a ton of Cincinnati on this show. I hesitate to bring this up, but I just want to get, I guess, both you guys on the record with the whole Skyline chili thing. Are we Skyline fans? I see one nod.
I'm a Skyline
first.
You're both Skyline.
Yeah, I'm a Skyline guy.
Right, okay, you're.
What's the other one?
Gold Star.
Gold Star. Yeah. Right, you're either a Skyline or a Gold Star.
Okay,
guy.
and we say
you're
yes
like
to
good
Skyline
food or bad food. Yeah. Skyline.
What is it, like a 4-way? What's a 4-way? It's like spaghetti.
Yeah,
sauce.
It's the spaghetti, the chili, a mound of cheese, and then onions on the 4-way. I get a 3-way. I'm not a big onions guy.
Okay, so just a 3-way, just spaghetti.
Yeah. I'm actually the Coney guy. I get the glizzies, the dogs.
Oh my gosh,
chili and
you're an
cheese
offensive
on
line.
Yeah.
This starting to make more sense.
Yeah,
now.
put a few down. So.
Coach, what's your Skyline order?
Yeah, it's been a long time, but it would be a Coney. I love it.
Okay.
I do. I love it. Put it all on it on my wife. She, she's not a Cincinnati. She's not a Southwest Ohio girl.
I got you.
She's more a North.
You either hate it or you love it. It's kind of like Notre Dame football. Like you hate it or you love it.
Wow, that could be a good tagline. Notre Dame football, just like Skyline chili. I'd
wear that shirt. I'd wear that shirt.
Did you hear his quote? Were you in here yet when he said, what was it? Give it to me again. It's about answers.
I said
it was a good quote.
I said good teams will look for answers. I said great teams come together and find solutions.
How valuable is that? Like this week, Coach? Like that hit the nail on the head. From
you can take that and say it to the team, and that's all you need to say, right? But that's the group of guys that this team and program is made up of. We're not gonna. He just said it earlier, right? That conversation about not making excuses. You own the situation you're in, and that's what we have to do. And it's hard. It's really hard, and especially when you have the pain that him and Joe were talking about, the pain in your gut. After a tough loss. And so, but that's what this team will do. We're going to embrace it. We're going to own it, and we're going to get back to work. Because that's the only remedy, truly, is to get back to work. And it's not comfortable, but that's what we'll do.
One thing I heard too, to transition a little bit, Zeke, is you're one of 9. Is that correct? And you're the youngest?
I'm the baby. Yeah.
Okay, so
Big
just
baby.
how old's your oldest sibling?
She's 40.
So that's quite the gap, right?
Yeah.
I'm an only child. So, you got to explain a lot to me here. But what was that like growing up in a house of 9 and then also being the youngest?
It was awesome.
Okay.
It was so much fun. Yeah, there's never a dull moment. I was always entertained, always wrestling. There's something always happening in the house. And then, growing up, all my teachers were like, oh, Zeke, like, I know you. I'm like, how? I've never even seen you before. And they're like, well, I remember when you were born, your sister was in my class. And this is like, she was a senior in high school. Wow. And I was just born. So then they'd have her and then all of my siblings and then me, the ninth Correll that they had. But, my parents are such amazing people. They did an awesome job blessing us and instilling great things in us. It was so much fun.
Coach, have you gone to him at all and asked for tips at all, or like what worked as a 9? Because you got 6, right?
Yeah. Me and my wife said, listen, 3, 6, not once you're outnumbered, right? You just keep starting over. You keep starting over. But the one thing about Zeke being the youngest, he'll be the baby forever. Right. And that's why, like our 4-year-old Rocco, he's the baby. And he'll always be the baby. The babies get spoiled, man. Yeah. That's the last one. And so no wonder he loves being number 9.
So was your oldest sibling almost like out of the house by the time you were born?
Yeah. So I was born in November. She was about to graduate high school.
Wow. And so what's the relationship like with that sibling? Like, are you tight because you almost didn't grow up with them, right?
Yeah.
But I imagine, your siblings.
We're all close.
Yeah, you're all close.
Obviously, my 3 closest siblings in age are 3 of my brothers. So it was like 3 girls, 1 boy, another girl, and then 4 boys. So I'm definitely been able to spend a little more time with my brothers. 3 of my brothers came for the game this Saturday. But we're all really close, and it's kind of funny. Like, I'll make the joke, like, some of my siblings are older than some of my coaches. So it's kind of just like, I don't know what the dynamic should be sometimes, but it's great. And I already have 13 nieces and nephews so far. I'll probably end up being like 30 something by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah.
So
that is wild.
Before I get you out of here, I've asked to do this every week just while the guy's here, and it's been great. We've had so many older leaders, but just with Zeke, and I can tell he's a guy that you lean on for kind of some leadership with the team. What excites you about his future and the kind of leader he's going to be going forward?
Well, I think the thing you can control in life is how hard you work, right? And you don't control the outcomes. You don't control what the reward of that is, but something is coming. And Zeke is just the hardest worker, man, I've been around. Tough as nails. And as you heard his journey, that's why he's in the position he's in now. And so no matter what he does, he's going to be successful. Yeah. He's going to play this game for a long time. And when he's done and his body says no more, he's going to be successful for sure.
I'll tell you one thing, my body will tap before my mind does.
See? That's exactly right.
That's a good spot to be in a headspace. All right, Zeke, thanks for joining us, Coach. We'll take a break.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now joined by a guest that you may have seen on the sidelines this past weekend. Also probably saw her over the course of the last, I think, 8 or 9 years in South Bend. It's NBC Sports' Kathyn Tappen. Kathryn, thanks for joining us on Wake Up the Echoes. It's a thrill to have you here. I want to start with just this past weekend. You've been coming to South Bend for, I think, close to a decade now. Mm-hmm. Where did this atmosphere rank for you? Because I was walking around campus. I've never seen this place the way it was on Saturday night. You've seen it up close and personal. Explain to me what the energy was like down there.
Yeah, first of all, Tony, thanks for having me. It's great to be with you. And I would say, that was the most people I've seen on campus in the days leading up to the game that I've ever seen. Yes, to your point, this was my 10th fall broadcasting a game at Notre Dame. I did 8 seasons on the sidelines. My 9th season last year was hosting our pregame and halftime coverage from the field. And then being back for this one game this season was great. But so I've never seen that kind of a buzz starting on Thursday. When we got there, I was like, where are all these people coming from? And then, we stayed downtown and at the same hotel, and we had Ohio State fans in there. There was a big alumni contingent. There were a bunch of activities that they were doing on campus. So they started rolling in Thursday. All day Friday was, pulling up to the Goog for our normal meetings with Marcus Freeman and the coordinators and the players. I couldn't believe how many fans there were. Normally I see students walking around campus, but I always make my way to the grotto at some point after our meetings on Friday afternoon. There were tour groups. There was a group from an Italian culture club that was there. There were people everywhere. I was like, wow, this is a different level. And, clearly you had all the activity on the library lawn there in front of Touchdown Jesus. You had Pat McAfee's show on Friday rather. You had game day all day Saturday. So you got the sense that it was a big game. We knew it was going to be a big game. You got the sense of that when we arrived on campus. I've never seen it like that.
Yeah, and amazingly, the game itself, I know the result didn't go the way Notre Dame wanted it to go, but it lived up to the hype as far as a spectacle. I just saw also that it's the most watched regular season game on NBC, I think, since 93.
Yep.
So it tells you how much interest there was. Just in your time covering this team and college football, have you been involved with a game that had that many late game twists and was that dramatic at the end?
No. And was that dramatic in the beginning too, I think. I think the number was like 14.5 million people that we had on Saturday night, which is just awesome. But what I love is that the game lived up to the hype, and you never know what you're going to get. But both coaches talked to us during the week and said, this thing's going to come down to the final whistle, which is exactly what happened. But I could not get over when I looked at the scoreboard approaching halftime before OSU kicked the field goal. I was like 0-0. I mean, I don't even remember the last time I watched a football game that was 0-0, let alone two top 10 teams that have high flying offenses. You've got Sam Hartman and Audric Estime. You've got the greatest wide receiver in college football on the other side of Marvin Harrison Jr. and literally no score on the board. Like, that to me was an incredible storyline. The way these defenses were playing, the battle at the line of scrimmage. And then, you know, you look at what that game brought. I think, you know, I'm sure the rating I haven't looked at all the notes from NBC PR yet, but I'm sure more people started tuning in too, being like, holy cow, we got a great game. And, you know, the buzz starts to go as the game gets bigger and bigger. But I've never been a part of a game like that. The twists, the turns, to your point, like, waiting with bated breath towards the end, wondering, okay, I've got a list of about 8 guys I could potentially interview in a matter of 45 seconds from now. Like, I have no idea which one I'm going to get. And, you know, that becomes nerve-wracking for me because you try and prepare your best for these post-game interviews. And I'm like, I have no idea who I'm going to get in a matter of 30 seconds. So
I wanted to ask you about that. That's one of the things that interests me most about your job and the unique role you have in the broadcast. Because let's say either one of those teams went out and was taking a knee to end the game and won handily, you'd probably have more time to plan exactly who you might talk to, whether it's the winning coach and the ideal player. In this case, like you said, it sounds like you maybe had 8 different people you might talk to. So talk me through your process on the sideline. How do you keep everything straight? Because also, I went down and watched a drive or two from the field. And for me, it's so much more difficult to follow the game on the field than when you're watching on the telecast with all of the different aids we have watching at home. So what are you doing to get ready for that moment where you, depending on what happens in the final play or two, you're going to go talk to so many different potential people?
Yeah, so I have the benefit of having monitors on the field. So normally the near left 20 and the far side 20, I've got monitors that are there all game long. This year, they've incorporated a roving monitor. So I've got a guy that's literally standing next to me with a monitor of the game broadcast. So anytime Todd Blackledge or Noah Eagle are showing replays, I can see it in my monitor. That's something that Sunday Night Football has always had, and we brought that in for Big Ten coverage, which has been great. So I could be anywhere on the field and see a replay or see, you know, if I have to present an injury report, I can look at the monitor and watch what I'm talking to. But yeah, with regards to the interview, I mean, it comes down to, we know we're going to get the head winning coach. But at that point, I'm like, okay, it could be Marcus Freeman. And there was a moment where we actually thought Notre Dame was going to win. So I'm like, all right, start prepping for Marcus Freeman. I'd say a lot
of us thought they were going to win.
Yeah, with about 7.5 minutes to play, I was in, you know, my producer who was in the truck was communicating with me, and we're like, all right, let's start coming up with questions for both sides. So I kind of knew what I wanted to ask Ryan Day. I knew my first question that I wanted to ask Marcus. But then I said to my producer, I'm like, listen, the end of this game is going to determine that first question. Because if Notre Dame wins, the fan base is going to come onto this field. And that is the opening question, you know, just the pandemonium and the magnitude of this victory. And then if it's Ryan Day and they win, that's a whole nother story tell. So I started prepping my questions with about 6 minutes to play. I thought for a moment, I was pretty confident. I'm like, all right, going to be Notre Dame, and then boom, I don't know, 20 years doing this, I don't know why I always think like, oh, it's going to be we got this, we're good. I'm like, no, if sports has taught us anything, it is like, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. And so sure enough, I was down right at the end zone with OSU driving, and I was standing next to Marcus Freeman watching the way he was calling the game, and I'm looking at Katie Lonergan, the SID for Notre Dame, and she's kind of looking at me like, I'm like, I can't tell you right now. Like, I don't know. It could be one or the other. So, you know, when they won, I ended up sprinting across the field. I grabbed Coach Day after he shook hands with Marcus Freeman, and he congratulated one of his players. But at that point, we're up against the clock. We're off the air at 11. We did have a little leeway. I think, I don't know how many minutes, a couple minutes to spare. So I was able to get the head coach and the winning quarterback, Kyle McCord. So, again, those questions became, you know, I've got a piece of paper and one page is Notre Dame and one page is Ohio State.
Right.
And I've itemized my priorities, and then it's just game on, you know, and then really it becomes the response of the coach and the response of the quarterback or whatever player you're interviewing, you know this, that's your follow-up question. Like, what did they say? I was not anticipating the follow-up I was going to have to ask with Coach Day. But
I don't think anybody was anticipating that one. I think I talked to Allison Williams once, and her biggest tip to young broadcasters was like, you got to listen. And it's really hard because you're on the field, but like you said, you have to listen to what they're saying. and following up with it. I wanted to ask you about just being back on campus and in town. When we were talking before you came on here, because you only now made it back for one, you used to come every home game. Just what was it like seeing some of the familiar faces? I know you developed a lot of great relationships here in your time in South Bend. To be back on campus, obviously for a huge event, but to see some of the people you hadn't seen as regularly, what did that mean?
Yeah, well, it meant the world to me. I mean, I think, that's a special place. I started covering Notre Dame football in 2014, and I just, I was overwhelmed most of the weekend, to be honest with you, with the warm reception I received from everybody, from the staff at the Aloft Hotel to, we rolled into the LaSalle Grill on Thursday night with 9 of us and looking for a table. Well, I didn't know it's trivia night on Thursday nights at LaSalle, and you have you have to pre-reserve your seats, and they remembered us, and the Brian who works there and all the great staff at LaSalle Grill just totally cleared a table for us and got us in and fed us, and it was amazing. And then arriving on campus, going to practice, and then also meeting with Marcus Freeman and seeing the same people that I saw for so many years in the Goog, the coaching staff. I mean, every coach came in and gave me a hug and was like, "It's so great to see you. Great to have you back." Then the ushers in the stadium on kickoff on Saturday night were coming up to me and saying hello. And I was overwhelmed. I mean, Jack Swarbrick, we miss you around here. It's so great to have you back. And, that's unusual. I mean, Notre Dame is a special place. And I've said this many, many times before, love it or hate it if you cheer for them or you don't. It's a special place. There is a spiritual sense of, higher learning and high, all the great things that come with a very good institution, but then it's good people around it as too. Father Jenkins on the sideline. I forgot about him. I mean, you name it.
Right.
I was really blown away, and I was humbled, and I was grateful because I certainly loved my time covering Notre Dame football. I'm now doing it on a different level with Big Ten college football. I hope in years to come that I will be, making my way back to South Bend for more games or more visits perhaps. But I was blown away, and I was really, really, really happy about it. It felt really good to be back.
It was great to see you down there. I wanted to ask you, you kind of transitioned me towards what I want to talk about with your new responsibility with the Big Ten. I just always find it interesting when we talk to people in this industry. You used to know when the Notre Dame schedule came out, okay, I've got these 7 home games on these dates. You probably knew a few months in advance. When I saw you on the field the other night, you were telling me that you don't even necessarily know what your game might be a couple weeks in advance. So I guess what's the difference between preparing for your Big Ten games now and maybe what's exciting about seeing even more of college football?
Yeah, well, just that alone is very exciting. Going to these college towns, now I get to see a lot more of them than just South Bend. But there was a sense of understanding with Notre Dame football. Come week 3, week 4 of covering that team, you knew the team inside and out. You kind of have an understanding of what it's all about. And it's not every weekend. So it was very easy those 7 weekends of the year to get prepared and to get ready to go to South Bend. There was a familiarity with where we stayed, everything about it. Now it's totally different. To your point, we just found out where we're going next weekend. So I've got to start to get my flights together. And but we have such an incredible research team at NBC Sports. So getting prepared for the game, my prep for this week started on that flight home yesterday from South Bend. And it's okay. It's Michigan State, Iowa. We're heading to Cedar Rapids. Let's get our storylines in place. Let's watch their games from Saturday night, Saturday daytime. And then you've got 2 rosters you've never seen before. You've got transfer players that are, totally different from last season with these teams. So it just becomes almost like studying for an exam, cramming for an exam. You got to learn really quickly about these 2 teams. And also I think the curiosity that we bring, because we don't cover them on a regular basis. There's an element of advantage to that as well, because maybe you're asking questions that a local beat writer might not ask because it's just understood. We have an audience that we can't assume is going to know anything about either one of these 2 teams. Mm-hmm. So we look at it from 30,000 feet. What are the biggest storylines? And then ultimately the game's going to determine the way the broadcast goes.
Something I also wanted to ask you, just a little bit big picture, and you were talking to me before we started here about how you were speaking to a school today, giving some tips to some young students that might be interested in getting into broadcasting. And I'm always interested. Everyone has a different journey to get into broadcasting. And the landscape, as you know, has changed so much today than when you started. But what are some of the tips you give to young people, whether they're in high school, college, just starting out, for how they can carve out a career? You obviously have a job that I think tons of people who watch this would love to have, right? They fly you around the country to broadcast Big Ten football. Like that's a great gig. And not necessarily everyone can have that job, but to get into the industry and kind of carve out a path, I guess what worked for you and what kind of advice do you give people that want to break in?
Yeah. I had the opportunity to speak to a high school in my town and anytime I get that opportunity, I grab a hold of it, whether it's colleges or high schools. I'm amazed that high schools are now interested in bringing people like me in, because when I was growing up, that wasn't even an option. But they're more and more getting media programs, getting media classes as part of their curriculum. Certainly at the college level, that's definitely an advantage. But I think, today that question was asked of me, what advice would you give to somebody starting out? And it would be the same advice I would give anybody in any industry. I think start building your network. Start building. Everybody you meet along the way is going to be somehow relevant down the road. I can guarantee it. If someone comes to speak at your class, shake their hand after class, get their information, even if it's just a simple thank you for coming to speak to us. You're on their radar, and they may need you for something down the road. Right. So I think building the network is a big thing. And then, looking people in the eye, shaking their hands, being present in the moment. Everybody's so consumed on social media and on their phones all the time. You may be flying on a flight and not even realize the person next to you who it is, and that could be someone that could help you. But if you're constantly looking down and not keeping your eyes open and aware of everything around you, you might miss something really important. And again, that goes for really anything. And I don't have the answers as far as how to get into this business. It's very different from when I got in. Yeah. I mean, I applied on tvjobs.com to every small market in the country and got rejection after rejection after rejection, and ended up at NBC 10 in Providence, Rhode Island, because someone gave me a chance. And that's what it takes. You've got to get your foot in the door. Someone will give you a chance. It's what you do and what you make of that chance when you get there that's really, really important.
All right, Kathryn, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with our From the Irish question. All right, Kathryn, it's time for our From the Irish, presented by TireRack.com. Question of the week. We always have listeners submit questions. I've got a great one here. It's from DJ in Oldsmar, Florida. He says, among all the sports that you have covered, which one brings you the most joy?
Ooh, oh my gosh, it's so hard. Oh man, that's a really good question, BJ. And I get asked that a lot because I do have such an opportunity to cover so many great events. I would say there's nothing like being on the sidelines of a football game, whether it's college or NFL. I love college. I love the noise in the stadium. I love the pomp and circumstance, the traditions, the smells, the sounds, the helmets clanging, the bodies hitting the turf. Like, everything about it is so real and it's so authentic. And then you get kind of insider looks into what players are really about when you hear the chatter at the line of scrimmage. You hear things that you wouldn't normally hear, which it's almost like inside baseball, football. So I would say, but as much as I love the college football sidelines, I also love the NHL, and I love the game. I love the players. I love the sense of integrity, the sportsmanship, the tradition of shaking hands at the end of each series during the playoffs. Like, you don't see that in every sport, each round of the playoffs. So I would say, I think it's a combination of both of those. The sidelines and then the NHL are two of my favorite events to be able to cover.
Okay, I'm also getting, they're hitting me in the IFB here. This is from Mike T in Ann Arbor. Might also be based out of Syracuse. I don't know exactly, but he's saying to me, Mike T. I think he was. Where were they last night? Where were they? They were in
Vegas.
They were in Vegas last
night. You might
night.
Still be stuck in Vegas.
Yeah,
Maybe
this is actually Mike
Vegas. I mean, if I were Mike 3, I'd be in Vegas too.
Yeah, Mike T from Vegas says, who is your favorite NBC announcer that you've ever worked with? And this is a tough one.
Oh my gosh. I mean, my least favorite is this guy named Mike Tirico. No, I'm kidding. I have to say, like, I give NBC credit for hiring some of the greatest people, because I cannot even pick one. I've worked with such amazing individuals. I mean, and the best of the best. Mike Tirico, Doc Emmerich. I've been on the set with Keith Jones in hockey. Dan Hicks and on golf and on Notre Dame, and Tom Hammond. And I can't even name one, because what I will say about most of the people I have worked with, and it really at NBC, they just value me being there, and they respect me, and they are incredibly endearing, and we all become a family. We're on the road for a long, long time together. You become a working family, but you also become incredibly close off the air, because you're having meals together. You're there when you're answering phone calls that might be tough. I mean, I had my colleagues in the car with me when I got a phone call at Notre Dame. We were on our way to practice, and I found out my uncle passed away suddenly. And you know, you're in those moments, those very, very sensitive moments with people that you're working with, but they're more than just your colleagues. They're your family, they're your friends. So Mike was like a brother to me for so many years, still is. He calls me his TV sis. So certainly Mike is high up there on the list for sure.
All right. Mike T got the answer he was looking for, whether he's in Vegas or Ann Arbor. I can confirm NBC only employs great play-by-play broadcast.
There you go. Yes. Exactly.
Kathryn, thank you so much for joining us. I got to say, it was great to see you on the sideline.
You too, Tony. I know I miss seeing you all in person.
I know. I echo what the ushers said. It's great to have a familiar face back there, but I am excited to see you traveling around and covering that primetime package. When Notre Dame is not playing in primetime, which it does seem like they're playing in primetime every week now, we will make sure to follow you and what you do. So thanks for making some time, and thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tony. Keep up the great work.
All right. Thanks a lot. That does it for this week's edition of Wake Up the Echoes, presented by TireRack.com. Once again, a big thank you to Kathryn Tappen for making some time to join us today. Also, the two big offensive linemen, Joe Alt and Zeke Correll. And always enjoy talking to the head coach, Marcus Freeman. We will talk to you 1 week from now after the Duke game on the next edition of Wake Up the Echoes, presented by TireRack.com.